Okay, so generally speaking, when I jump into these concepts, we've already gone through a lot of Java programming, and we're talking about how to apply these concepts. In this case, we're going to talk about the theories before we do the coding. So I want to talk about what are classes, objects, and encapsulation. I've referenced it in an earlier lecture, but a class literally describes the object. So what does an object have that is similar to other objects that are the same object? So what do like all balls have in common? What do all bells have in common? What do all automobiles have in common? And those commonalities are the class. They're the definition. What every instance has. An instance of a class is the actual object once it happens, once it's created. But the class is like the factory that we set the blueprint up to make that class. It describes the object's behaviors and attributes. The attributes are the characteristics that define the object. These are the what an object might have, or the adjectives and the nouns effectively about an object. So an object has teeth. How many teeth does an object have? An object may have wheels. How many wheels does it have? And I can put that as an attribute. High school students have cell phones. I can actually make the cell phone an attribute of the high school student because I've not yet met one without access to a cell phone. But even if a student doesn't have one, it's more easy to put a null value for that attribute. So you can see how that sort of attribute, whatever an object has, can be a certain attribute. It differentiates objects of the same class. So if I'm talking about like a house, how do I distinguish one house from another house? Well, that house has this many square feet. That house is red. That house is pink or purple. I've not seen a purple house yet, but why not? How would I distinguish a truck from another truck? And how big is it? What engine does it have? Who made it? What brand is it? Those are attributes. The value of the attribute is the object state. So I might have an attribute that says like color. And then when I put the color into that, I say this is a gray vehicle. The gray is the object state. Is it possible to change states? Well, it depends on the attribute, of course. But in the case of like a vehicle, you can always get it repainted. So my gray truck might be a red truck tomorrow if I had the money and wanted and will to demand that sort of paint color transition. When I create an object is a specific concrete instance of a class. So once I've created the attribute, make the factory, and I tell the factory, make this thing, this car, this ball, this bell, whatever I'm telling it to make. Once it creates that object, it is now a specific instance of that particular class in the world, and we call it, therefore, instantiation. To give you a visual about how this works, let's talk about dogs. We've kind of referenced, if I haven't yet, I usually reference dogs in this case. I may have to get out of the way of the slide a little bit, but I'm not moving that well at all. But we're going to talk about dogs a little bit, right? And the idea is that there is one big class of dogs, right? And that's the dog class definition. Every dog that exists, if they're a household dog, will have a name, age, breed, and shot status. So when we create these domestic dogs, you will have like we have 3 specific dogs here. We have this Akita, who is 6 years old, whose name is Ginger, and the shot status is up to date. We have another dog named Bowser, who's a retriever, 2 years old. Shot status is up to date. So you can see that the attribute is age, the state is 6 for Ginger, 2 for Bowser, 1 for Roxy. Roxy fills in that box that is name of an attribute. Roxy is a beagle, and her status is also up to date. Sorry about the background distractions there. So therefore, when we talk about objects, you are talking about this class with attributes. But it also has, an object will also have methods, some things an object can do. These are like verbs. They're similar to procedures. They look like procedures. Some people even use the term procedures, probably erroneously in object-oriented programming. But a method is a self-contained block of programming that carries out an action. And when you build a method, you're going to put all the steps within that method that creates that algorithm for handling that behavior. And you will make like an object you'll make a class for an object. You'll create some attributes on the top of the object class, and then you'll make all these methods that are the behaviors of that particular object. Encapsulation is the idea of concealing internal values and methods from outside sources. It's the idea that some private things should indeed be kept private. Now that just may be information sharing thing. You don't want the whole world to know your social security number, so you're going to keep that private. But at the end of the day, encapsulation helps to provide a certain amount of security when we're dealing with data. It keeps data and methods safe from inadvertent changes from users that are either potentially like sabotaging your program or just don't know what they're doing. It allows you to maintain the status of your program that way. We are going to end this particular lecture here.